Ladies and gentlemen, everyone and everything apart, birds of the sky, beasts of the field, creatures in the sea, apparitions in the air. A very extensive welcome to the very first episode of Whispers and Growls. Yes, this is my official practice podcast. Essentially, when I get requests to do staff jobs, commissions, obviously I have to practice before I release things, whether I post things on social media or send things to clients. And I've been recording myself when I do these practice sessions, and there are some useful things that I uncover or I reveal when I do the recordings. And from the reception I've received, people seem to really enjoy when I make these clips, when I show the errors, when I show tips and tricks when I'm recording. And so I thought I'd make an official podcast. The name was decided by my audience. The thumbnail or the logo was also decided by my audience. So this is not just me doing it, even though it's just me, one-man team, recording, editing. It's a collaborative effort, and I'm not the only one who's made the decisions to do everything I'm doing. The requests are from authors, are from clients, are from people who just want me to do stuff. And so, yeah, it's kind of cool what's happening. Thank you for being a part of this, if you have been so far. And if you're not, get involved in it. I'm not scary. I don't bite. I try and do this as often as I can. There are lots and lots of requests and different clients who send me jobs. And so technically we shouldn't run out of ideas and things to film on. But in case we run out of ideas, I'll probably start reading stories from Reddit or something, or yeah, start reading things of my own. So first episode, we're going to do some reading practice. I have this book, Divine Bonds, Celestial Warfare in the Sands, that I've done some work on before. A while ago, I worked with the author to try and promote the book. I did some voices for the antagonist in the book, and I had fun. I also got some audience participation to help me choose the perfect voice for it. What was that line? Can you see it now? The death of your friends coming up on the road. Something along those lines. I haven't started reading the book, not properly, so forgive me. But from what I've been reading so far, like when I'm doing practice, I read some stuff from the chapters. I really kind of enjoyed like how it's written, the story. I'm more of like a fantasy action kind of guy. So this is kind of like up my alley, down my alley. What do people say? This is down my alley. It feels weird. I'm going to try and read a chapter from this, but let me introduce and talk about the author first. This is actually the second book he sent me. The first book he sent me was like the author's proof copy, and so it had like a band down the middle. This is the second book he sent me. This is like proper release to the public kind of book. But he's also sent me this patch, like a military patch, which is really cool. Like I guess I underestimate the kind of impact or the things I do and how people receive it. For me to like receive things from someone who's dedicated their time, their hours, their life to write something, and then have souvenirs because of the partnership that we've had, I don't know, it's a very touching feeling. I can't lie. So I don't know how to incorporate this into like the things I wear. I'll have to like hit up someone to like sew it onto a jacket for me. But yeah, it's like a patch he made. It's influenced by the story in the book and obviously his military background. It's kind of cool. Right, let me read a little bit about the author. I asked him to send a little bio about him. So we're going to learn a little bit about the author before we get into some of his works. I'm going to read as him because he wrote it in his perspective. I recently left military service after serving 16 years, 8 years in the Marine Corps infantry and another 8 years in the army as a medical service officer. I've always loved to read fantasy as a child, escaping reality and having fun adventures behind the pages of a book. The book originally was a way for me to digest my past. I would often wake up from nightmares or even in the middle of my day have a memory of the past come forth. So rather than let the memory consume me, I started to make the story my own, in which I could control. By adding the fantasy element to my past, it helped me manage the effect each memory had on me. Eventually, these ideas made chapters and I was off to writing a book. This is really cool. This is like some really cool mental gymnastics. I've done the same in the past as well, where to stop an idea from the past, like ruining me and like plaguing me, let's just say I've added some fantasy into my memories. And so I'm better able to control like trauma, as people would say, or things that I've kind of like sucked and dealt with in the past. Anyways, we're not talking about me today. We're talking about the author and his book. Divine Bonds, Celestial Warfare in the Sands. In the heart of war-torn Iraq, where the dust of ancient lands whispers secrets of a world beyond sight, a marine named Hatfield discovers his fate is bound to powers as volatile as the land he seeks to pacify. Celestial Warfare in the Sands is an epic fantasy that bridges the realms of the seen and unseen, merging the gritty reality of warfare and the mystic forces of ancient entities. Hatfield, bound to a godly entity, finds himself ensnared in a celestial conflict that has raged unseen along mankind's own battles. The mission extends beyond the insurgencies and into a fight against the shadows where gods fight for control of reality. As the conflict escalates, Hatfield must navigate a treacherous path. The magic that flows through his veins is a double-edged sword, offering unparalleled power, but also threatening to engulf his soul. In the ruins of a village caught between worlds, alliances will be tested and the very fabric of reality will be challenged. Celestial Warfare in the Sands weaves a tale of courage, betrayal, and the search for redemption in a land where history bleeds into myth. Hatfield's journey is more than a marine's duty. It is a quest to uncover the truth of his power and the destiny that binds himself to the heart of the storm. Yay. Okay. I really have to make an effort to read this book because I know I will enjoy it. We're going to try and go through chapter 4. I asked him to give me a chapter that was like will give a good taste of the book. And he said chapter 4. So we're going to try and do that. We've been recording for 20 minutes now. Already I've made several mistakes. I've had to repeat myself. So hopefully the podcast isn't 20 minutes long because that will be a pain to edit. Right. Chapter 4. Let's get some page ASMR. Nice. We don't want the wind to go into the microphone. We want that. We just want that. You hear that sound? Anyways, I'm getting distracted. Chapter 4. I'm not an amazing reader just yet. I can voice act as I read, and I do forget sometimes, but to say a line perfectly, intonation without mistakes, and just read consistently is difficult. I mean, I even struggle with my speech sometimes. But to read, technically the instructions are there. Just look at the book and just read the line. But of course, sometimes like your brain rushes or slows down and like you just mispronounce words. Chapter 4, May 19, 3:10 a.m. 2 weeks had trickled by since the squad's last skirmish. A misleading calm I'm doing it now. 2 weeks had trickled by since the squad's last skirmish. A misleading calm hovered over the streets and buildings like morning fog. Captain Grazek, I'm going to pronounce it like Grazek. It's spelled Graczek. Captain Grazek gathered a team in the pre-dawn darkness, fluorescent lights casting a white hue over the camo gear. He looked at each man's face, stern, sleepy, but attentive. All right, men, it's another 4 a.m. patrol. We've been quiet, maybe too quiet, so keep your eyes peeled. Anything goes south, you know the drill. Grazek's voice cut through the morning silence. Quick thing, it's 0400, right? So I'm pronouncing it as 4 a.m. because that's what my brain interprets it at. If I was doing an audiobook, I guess I have to get the author's permission or the author's insight about how he wants me to pronounce it. But right now I'm going to say 3 a.m., 4 a.m., even if it's written in military time. Yeah, so Hatfield shared a large wooden table in the team room with the squad, each one preparing the weapons and equipment for patrol. As Hatfield loaded the crypto into the radio and called the TOC, Tactical Operations Center, for a radio check, he looked towards his brothers, each one like a cog in a watch, meticulously checking gear and doing weapons checks. Hosey, his closest friend, Larson, the reliable squad leader, and the others, Vega, Irving, Carson, Sharp, Bronson, Taylor, Greenfield, and Davon. Memories of the recent poker night flashed in his mind, an odd contrast to the weight of their body armor and weapons. They were midway into their foot patrol when it happened. A dusty car suddenly appeared out of nowhere, barreling down the road towards them. Halt! Do I shout? I can't shout. I'm right next to a microphone. But there's an exclamation mark here that implies the person shouting. Halt! Stop the vehicle! Hosey's voice was authoritative, thundering even. He raised his hand, signaling it. He raised his hand, signaling it. Wow, some words are just difficult to pronounce next to each other. Wow, this is embarrassing. He raised his hand, signaling it. And this is fair, this is all practice. He raised his hand, signaling it. I'm disappointed in myself right now. Signaling it. Flip now. Signaling it. I can't let this defeat me. He raised his hand, signaling it. Signaling. He raised his hand, signaling it to stop. Times like these, let's change our intonation, it might help. The car kept accelerating, kicking up dust in its wake. Larson, disable it, Krasik ordered. Larson, a seasoned marksman, braced himself. His M203 found its target, and he squeezed the trigger. The bullet found its home in the car's engine, causing the radiator to spray steam, masking the driver's view. The car sputtered, coughed, and finally rolled to a stop. Irving was the first to react, pulling the man out with a swift practice yank. They gagged and blindfolded him swiftly, securing his hands with flex cuffs. With an extra layer of caution, they patted him down for hidden weapons before loading him into their vehicle. Back at the base, the detainee was ushered into an interrogation room. Staff Sergeant Davis from the Counterintelligence Division walked in. His eyes scrutinized the room like a hawk surveying its territory. Hours later, he emerged with news. He was testing us, Davis reported to Captain Krasik. Wanted to gauge our response time and firepower for a VBIED, vehicle-borne improvised explosive device. And there's more. He has intel about a planned ambush tonight. Krasik's eyes narrowed. So they planned to blast up with a car bomb. Well, let's prepare our own surprise, shall we? Each Marine was assigned a task. Humvees were armed with 50 calibers, MK-19s, and 240 machine guns. Extra rounds of ammunition were distributed, and first aid kits were checked and double-checked. As the team mounted up, the tension was palpable, but a sense of purpose filled the air. Hatfield, seated in the driver's seat of Krasik's Humvee, ran his fingers over the vehicle's controls. A montage of all the training and firefights they'd been through flashed before his eyes. He felt a strange and sudden clarity. Tonight was not going to be like any other night. They rolled out, the roar of Humvee engines filling the air as they navigated through the narrow complex. They rolled out, the roar of Humvee engines filling the air as they navigated through the narrow complex. They passed the bustling marketplace, now deserted and veiled in darkness. The last hints of food, spices, and human activity lingered in the air, a stark contrast to the unknown dangers that lay ahead. Hatfield's mind was on high alert, his grip tight on the wheel, as they passed a series of dilapidated, his grip tightened on the wheel as they passed a series of dilapidated, say it without thinking, dilapidated. As they passed through a series of dilapidated buildings, a deep, unsettling feeling crawled up from the pit of his stomach. It was as if a dark voice was whispering, warning him, guiding him. He felt an inexplicable urge to speak. Vega, could you aim the 50 caliber at a half-constructed building up ahead, the second floor? It feels sketchy, Hatfield finally urged, unable to shake the feeling. Just as Vega shifted the heavy barrel upward, aimed for the building, there was a burst of AK-47 fire. The night was ablaze with gunfire and shouts, the air thick with tension and smoke. As Hatfield looked left and right from the driver's seat of his Humvee, his eyes darted about, scanning the horizon for more insurgents. The palpable sense of danger was electrified by the snaps of the 50 caliber bullets cracking into the concrete structure and the harsh chatter of AK-47 rounds pinging off the Humvee's armor. And then, as if through a break in the chaos, Hatfield's eyes locked onto a set of glowing amber orbs in the distance. They were tucked away in a shadowy alley, barely visible, but unmistakably there. Time seemed to slow down. I know what's happening now in my brain. There are some words that you can associate immediately with something else. So for example, here there's a line that says, time seemed to slow as their gazes met. In my head, I would read that as time seemed to slow down as their gazes met. And so I read that and my brain does a quick, time seems to slow down as the gazes met. But then I realize, wait, this is a mistake. And so I stop halfway through when I realize I've made a mistake. And this is so interesting. The way that people speak where they're from, they have these preset words or phrases that they have. So pattern up, slow down, you know what I mean? I'm saying all these examples, but they're like some words that people from different parts of the world just immediately pair together. So yeah, my brain will add that down next to slow and just trip me up because it's filling in blanks that aren't there. I wonder if anyone else experiences this. Anyways, time seemed to slow as the gazes met. It was as if the orbs were not just looking at him, but reaching into him, pulling his consciousness into another realm. Hatfield suddenly found himself engulfed in flames. I did it again. Hatfield seemed to find himself engulfed in darkness. That one is completely opposite because you usually think engulfed in flames. This time is engulfed in darkness. So I was about to say engulfed in flame. You feel me? You heard that. So I'm not actually reading. I'm pretty much predicting the next word based on the previous word. My brain is cool or very broken. Anyways, Hatfield suddenly found himself engulfed in darkness, as though he had stepped into a parallel universe superimposed over the real world. Around him, the sounds of battle grew muffled, distant. He was aware of his surroundings but saw them through a different lens. The insurgents were not just armed men. They were vessels of darkness that flowed like venom through their veins. Their bodies seemed to house networks of shadowy tendrils that replaced what should have been blood, pulsing with an unnatural light. In this ethereal realm, the concept of chakras, energy centers within the body, morphed into something grotesque. Instead of emanating life and vitality, these swirling energy centers were dark vortexes that seemed to pull in light and goodness, only to distinguish them. I'm rushing. These were not the chakras of balance and enlightenment, but the perverted antithesis. These were not the chakras of balance and enlightenment, but the perverted antithesis, corrupting the man into becoming conduits of malevolence. I love that. That sentence banged. Corrupting the man into becoming conduits of malevolence. Those words just seem so cool together. Obviously, it's a terrible line, but the way they're put together, corrupting the man into becoming conduits of malevolence. Those phrases that exist are just, ooh, brilliant together. Sorry. The overwhelming feeling that all this darkness stemmed from this shadowy feeling provoked Hatfield to eliminate it. He fired his M16 off the Humvee's driver's side window, raining bullets against the back of the wall where the shadowy figure stood. Through the dust, Hatfield could still see the amber eyes flickering. A voice broke the silence, reverberating around Hatfield. It's timber. It's not timber. Okay, let's take a quick intermission. There's a word, Timber. That is like a wood, trees, chopped down. Timber. As soon as you switch the R and the E, the word changes entirely. I'm going to give you 3 words and you tell me if they kind of relate to each other, the way they pronounce. You've got Timber. Cool. You've also got Timbre. Cool. Macabre. Timber. Tamba. Macabre. So I read this and I see timber, but obviously it's not timber, it's timbre because we're talking about sound. Timbre. And if you're American, you might pronounce that completely different, but this is another word that just trips me up if I'm reading too quickly. So a voice broke the silence, reverberating around Hatfield. It's timbre, low and unsettling. Oh yeah, this is the one that I can voice act because I've done before. Down here. Where is it? You cannot kill me. It said with a laugh. A whisper that seemed to emanate and echo from the very darkness around him. For I am not a man. I am your fears, your doubts, your regret. I think I'm going to stop there. It's 49 minutes I've been recording for. There are 2 more pages to chapter 4, but I think I'm going to end there because I like that last bit quite a bit. I think it might give you a bit of spice. Right. I'm going to try and read this book properly. I like it so far, except time is not really a friend of mine right now. There's just so much to do. Who knows? I might actually read the book, finish, and then do a little review. Because, yeah, should we do that? That'll be a good motivation for me to like read more. But I'm going to end it there because I should sleep. It is, what time is it? It's currently 1 a.m. It's almost 2 a.m., 1:45, and I have to wake up to go gym in the morning because I'm trying to be healthy. Right. Let me sign off. Next week, I'm going to try and do some poetry. I say next week like I'm definitely going to record next week. Next week might actually be next month. But I'll try and keep a good schedule with these things because, you know, I'm enjoying it and I think the impact I might make with people will be unpredictably good. Right. So I'll sign off now. Stay safe. Stay alive. I'll see you soon.